Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I'm so thrilled to have you join us today. This podcast is dedicated to exploring the idea of doing business and living life with a purpose, serving others, and yes, achieving success. We believe when we approach our work and our lives with a servant's heart, we can make a difference, and a big difference. We also created this show for you because we want everyone to be motivated, inspired, and educated to make an impact in your world. So when you listen to my incredible guest, take the information, whatever works for you, change your life, change somebody else's life with it. That'd be great. And whether you're an entrepreneur, community leader, or simply somebody looking to bring purpose to your daily life, this podcast is here to support you. While you're listening to this awesome guest, I want you to think about how you're going to serve today and what impact you will create today. The key word is today. And today's episode is proudly sponsored by our phenomenal partner, Pantheon Alliance. Imagine being part of an exclusive community of high-income, successful business owners and entrepreneurs from very diverse industries. Together, we'll build a thought leader, expertise platform, for more importantly, to change the world. So if you want to be interested in this community, let me know. It's awesome. I'm part of it. That's why it's on my podcast, and I think you'll find some great value. So reach out to me, and I'll get you more information. So that being said, all the way in England, over the pond, as they say, is my guest. I love my international guests because I seem to learn more from them because they seem to do it right. Not that America doesn't do it right, but we kind of are crazy over here. And it's good to get a very neutral business perspective. AJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Steve. I don't know about
You're so welcome.
Any of that, but sure, I'll take it.
We're going to run with it. That's what we're going to do.
We're run with it. Exactly. Yes, sir.
So interesting. You call your business Audacious Commerce. A cool name, but why'd you come up with that name?
So around about this time last year, I was talking to a branding consultant here in the UK, and he said, "You brand your business like it's a plumber or an electrician. You need something bold, you need something brave." And I was like, okay, cool. And that's how I was thinking about rebranding. And I kept playing around with different names. I kept playing around with different ideas. And Audacious really, the moment I hit on Audacious, I was like, light bulb. And then commerce, I'm involved with a lot of e-commerce business. I'm involved in commerce in general. I thought I want to get rid of that E because I don't believe the E is necessarily important anymore like it was 20 years ago, right? We're all familiar with what e-commerce is. And so that's how I came up with Audacious. But I also hope, and this is, my basic hope is that by calling it Audacious Commerce, that people are big dreamers, big goal setters, and high achievers.
E-commerce it's a great story. Kind of knew it'd be a great story. E-commerce is taken off. We can now jump on our computer at home. And I mean that in a positive way because I do it as well on the side, a little bit of, and I've been doing it for years. What do you bring to the table for somebody listening to start an e-commerce or has an e-commerce platform and wants to grow?
Sure, yeah. So for me, I've been in digital marketing and the e-com game now for about a decade. I've had my own brand. We went from me sat in this very room to me sat in this room serving clients in 12 countries. I've helped various different businesses in the last kind of like 3 or 4 years. I've been in consultancy, whether that's been your little startups who you haven't found where they're trying to fit in with their market fit, or where it's people that have has some success and it's pitted out, and they're now wondering what to do next. So what I essentially do is bring a very, very different approach from the usual agency. So A, I'm not an agency, I'm a consultant. And then B, I do what I call strategy first consulting, which I know you're a fan of and I know you know a lot about, but let me explain for the people that don't know, that aren't us. Strategy first consulting is simply this. It's me understanding, or the consultant understanding, we're A, we're trying to get to B, and then we need a roadmap that gets us from A to B. And that roadmap should allow us to stop at certain points and measure our success, but also ignore a lot of the variances that we may get distracted with along the way to enable us to push forward in a productive manner that gets us from A to B without too much heartache or hassle.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what I do every day in and day out. And so that's what I bring to the table. I also do quite a lot of I fundamentally believe that marketing is data science. And data science to me is the application of understanding what the numbers are saying. And so I've got clients at the moment I'm helping with P&L. I've got other clients that I'm helping with acquiring factories for them. I'm then jumping into a campaign where we're looking at, right, what is the headline? And yeah, so I'm definitely more right brained. I'm definitely more left brain. I'm more analytical, but I have a good sensibilities into the right brain. I know enough incredibly intelligent, creative thinkers to be able to draw them in as and when.
When you get great partners, I think right brain if I have a brain. Sometimes I
Right.
wonder, but no, I think because I am a creative and you're analytical. And so you brought up analytics and numbers.
Yeah.
It's important in every business, but I think ecom it's so important.
Yep.
If I'm making 2,000 a month on my Amazon store or making 2 million a month on my own e-commerce product, can you help either one?
So I don't do a lot with Amazon. So I have some incredible partners that do Amazon, that do Walmart, do Target. That's what they specialize in, because the whole regulatory system around those platforms is completely different, and they just don't interest me. So I've found partners that are passionate about that and don't care about what I can do, and so us working together is epic because there's crossover, there's overlap, there's mutual understanding, but we're not trying to fight for each other's piece of the cake, right?
Right.
The thing that I would say, if a lot of what I can help people with is when they get to about 10,000, so that's $10,000, pounds, euros, doesn't really matter, because up until that point, you're doing what I call like product market fit. If you're trying to find the right product mix, you're trying to find the right customer, you're trying to find the right message. And a lot of that you can't do by paying somebody. You have to kind of go out there and talk to enough people and see if you can get traction. And you have to go and talk to enough people and say, right, if I was to do X, Y, and Z, would you buy that? And I think that put it at this price. And so a lot of that is fundamental to how you then progress forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also a lot of that is fundamental to how you imagine where you're going to get to as well, because you'll know what's possible. And so a lot of people have this mentality and we can just throw money at Facebook ads and we can go big. Whereas I'm of this opinion that you need to understand what is customer asking for and why they're asking for that, and then can you deliver that at a price they're willing to pay and in a time scale that they're willing to pay for, and then from there can we actually scale up? Are we dealing with 4 people who live in Massachusetts, or are we dealing with 200 million people across the US and Europe who are actually in market and actually interested in being in market? And so that's a lot of that stuff has to come from you actually having skin in the game and being able to prove out that your hypothesis worked. You can't just throw money at it, unfortunately.
No, and I love that you did that because that's a servant's heart. Same with your collaboration with Amazon experts or Walmart experts. You don't do that.
Nope.
That's what, if you're one of those servant's heart, that's why I love AJ, because that's exactly what he does. So in regards to Facebook ads, I'm glad you mentioned that. There's a place for it, but
100%. 100%.
But I just saw an ad for Tony Horton. He does a fitness thing. That's a guy who should do an Instagram ad, not me, a medium-sized business that's doing 10,000 a month. It's a lot of money, but there's just not enough money to throw at it, right?
So I think there's a difference between, so say you're a small business with, so say you're like a small gym, right? I'm just gonna use that as an example. Running Facebook ads in your locale that is highly targeted, highly specific, um, I think will always work because A, you probably have an addressable market size of a couple of tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 tops, right? B, write a copy in such a way that disqualifies people or qualifies people, whatever way you want to look at it, right? And then C, your call to action on CCA as impactful as possible that gets people to actually then take action. So with a small gym, also like hairdressers, right? You say, well, we help people who are 40, 60, who are dads, who are overweight, get rid of 20 pounds of their dad bods and live a healthier, better life through dieting and through a tailored exercise plan, right? That's disqualifying people who are 34 and want to get ripped. That's also disqualifying people who are in their 70s and want to do lots of circuit training, right? It's that kind of nuance. And so Facebook ads in that kind of situation, it will always win the day, right? If you're trying to sell, like a generic, I've got a mug in front of me, right? So I'm going to use the mug in there. A really bad example. I apologize. Right. If you're trying to sell like, a particular mug, there are already 1,001 people trying to sell mugs on Facebook. And so unless you have something that's novelty based or you have a brand that is well known, you are literally throwing money down the toilet. You're setting money alight because there's nothing tangible about what you do and why you're doing it that can be communicated in an ad, right? And so until you've done something that's fundamental, you've got some publicity, you got the market, you got some raving fans that talking about you, essentially traction marketing, right? You will always be burning money.
I like it. I like that and what you're telling me, and when I'm hearing it, audience, you need to hear this. If you want to do ads, go to an expert like you. Don't try to run it yourself. It's not good. And that's what I tell people. They ask me, I'm like, I'm not the expert. Go to the expert before you do it. Don't test and put $5,000 on it and go, oh my God, I'm going to triple my business. Be smart about your money.
The other thing I like to love what you just said, because I think this is so fundamentally important. You can test Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Pinterest ads, Google PPC, big PPC with less than $100, because all you're looking to do is, can I spend this $100 to get a client, right?
Yep.
Or can I spend $200 to get a client, or a small amount of money? Because if you can prove that as a hypothesis, scaling up from there is a reality, right? So going from say a budget of $200 to say $5,000, if you've got traction, you've got proof that actually at $200 you can get a lead for say $30, and then you can get somebody to convert for $170, right? You don't have the numbers to prove out your hypothesis. That means that the more money you push into it, the more opportunities and the more clients you'll get out of it. And so, never risk a ton of money unless you are sure that you can do it, right? Instead, risk a small amount of money and then use that as proof to then scale up.
Yeah. Well, you just proved that I just proved it by not knowing what I'm talking about, and you corrected me. And I'm not. That's perfect. That's exactly what I'm saying. I don't know marketing. You do. Kind of did that somewhat purposely, not always, but because that's what I want people to hear. Is maybe that tip they can run with it and do it, but ultimately, I say this all the time: you don't want a mechanic doing heart surgery on you. So don't try to do your own marketing, especially at large scale. Unless I know people, I got to spend money. We got to spend money to make money. So I'll leave it at that. That's always really good. So let's bridge that to SEO. Now that's a whole different ballgame. That's where you're an expertise at. Talk about that.
Yeah. So I find I've had a lot of people doing SEO wrong, especially when it comes to ecom. They think they've misaligned what SEO is, because so SEO to me is a very broad topic. And so you have SEO for your small business, where actually the objective may be to actually get people to call, right? May have opportunities to do SEO for ecom businesses, where actually I've got a good friend here in the UK called Sam, who runs a company called Blink SEO, and he keeps telling me, and he keeps posting about it, that 6% of their traffic goes to category pages, right? Sorry, 6% of the revenue that comes in is from category pages. Whether it's about, I think it's 10 or 20% from blog posts, right? And the other 30 or 40% is from product pages, right? And so you have to be aligning that your strategy with the outcome. And I think a lot of people just think, well, actually, SEO is the same. SEO is no different between. It's a completely different ball game depending on what the client outcome is. You can't do the same tactics and the same strategy unless you understand the nuance of what you're trying to achieve as a client.
Yeah.
And so so that's kind of the introduction to SEO.
No, thank you, because that's what I think is more important, to have an expert like you to work with than even Facebook ads, because it's so nichey and granular that you can make one missing word or something and could completely change the campaign, correct?
So it's not that it is that nuance, and it's not a nuance in some ways. So okay. I think people have this over-reliance on on keywords and not understanding, right, how does I was talking about it, so this is non-ecom kind of SEO now, right? So in non-ecom SEO, what you're trying to do is you're trying to put in front of that target, the prospective client, enough content in a sequential order to make them believe that you are the option, not an option. And you do that through making what you're writing about, pain point rich, that's targeted, that answers their questions in a sequential order, that ratchets up the discomfort, ratchets up the well, we might have a solution, but we're not quite sure, to get them onto a call to get them to take the next action. Whereas a lot of times with e-commerce SEO, it is about saying, right, okay, what are people searching for? Why are people getting stuck at certain points in the journey, and how can we smooth that stuckness? The other great interesting thing is, a friend of mine said to me about a year ago, with e-commerce, nobody understands what you're talking about, because nobody thinks of themselves as an e-com entrepreneur unless they are. Everyone thinks of themselves as running a small online shop, or running a retail shop with an online website. And the moment I've started changing that vocabulary, I've seen that people understand better what I'm trying to sell them. And talking about e-com only resonates with people who are in a very minute sector, or a very minute section of the market. We're like saying, hey, do you have an online store? Everyone's like, oh yeah, I have an online store. What does it sell? Nothing. Okay, great. Can we talk about that kind of thing? So you're absolutely right. That there is great nuance to it. At some level, but that there is also, you have to have an understanding of, right, what is the pain we're trying to solve, and how can we do it sequentially that pushes that target towards either saying, actually, no, you're not right, leaving, or saying, actually, you're the option for me, and I must talk to you, tomorrow.
Good, I like it. See, I love, as a host, that's why I love doing these shows, I learn as well. So I get a benefit for sure.
Absolutely.
So you talk about the love for money. Why do you love money?
So for me, so I infer from your podcast title that you are religious. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Good. And I think, regardless of wherever I look at the world, it's not necessarily about love of money, but it's about the idea that you build up money to enact change, and that you don't need a lot of money to enact change in certain circumstances, but you need to have some. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. So I grew up in the church. I still have lots of friends who are Christians. Parents, or my mother and a lot of her family are very, very word of faith. And I've seen a lot of them. They hang on to they misalign the love of money, but they also misalign with I can't think of the verses just get in my head. Words without faith without actions is dead. And I think the two things together, if you believe that you can change the world, and you need a little bit of money to do it, and your actions will take care of the rest, I think that's great, but I think also we got to the point as well, and maybe this is a long conversation between that we have privately.
That's all right.
Um, I I think a lot of churches, especially in in America and down under, have become very performance orientated, and they should be giving a lot of that money to do a lot of these social justice activities that they proclaim to be, whereas instead they have fancy projectors, lights, staging, and I don't feel any of that really matters. And so I love money because of the ability for me to change the world. Um, and for the ability for me to enact change in a meaningful manner that will help other people. Yeah, not because I love to have a big bank account. It's because I'm always thinking about how can I change the world in a meaningful way. And again, it's not about me as a person. I want to make that abundantly clear. Yeah, I don't want schools to after me. I don't want to have plaques everywhere. I want people to have the money so that they can enact the change that I believe in so deeply.
It's a great message. Great message. And faith believes that. The Bible talks about abundance, but what do you do
100%,
with abundance?
100%. Yes,
Like you
yes,
said, do you buy boats, cars, big studios, or do you go out
yeah,
and help people? Not saying all of
yeah,
it, but you're out there enacting change, and I love that.
yes,
Wow,
yes.
you gave me an answer I wasn't expecting. I'm very happy with. I'm sure the audience is as well.
Yeah, yeah. But
So
but but
go
so
ahead.
so so, so I just want to say that so my family history is Jewish. You can't tell from the thick hair, the big nose. Um, and so even though I'm not religious per se, I still maintain the Judeo philosophy of we are blessed to be a blessing to others, but also there is much more than what we see and what we are able to accomplish by ourselves, and therefore we need to be doing things within the community. And so I fundamentally believe in those principles,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm trying to enact.
Well, the servant heart comes in many forms: Jewish, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Catholic. So it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. That doesn't matter. It's the action of a servant's heart. And you definitely have that. We've
thank
come
you.
to almost the end here, but I want to ask you this question. So I'm going to go over a little bit. How digital marketing trends change all like technology? It almost changes weekly. How do you stay updated? And how can the people stay updated?
So I disagree with this fundamentally. So I don't feel that. I thought we have waves of technology. So Chat GTP was a wave, right? Google has gone from a lot of manual editing of ad campaigns to it being AI driven, which we're calling performance max, right? So I believe there are waves, and that there are again. This is where you use specialists, right? And this is why I'm a strategist. I can help people get from A to B, set the roadmap, set the KPIs and the goals, set the milestones, and they need to hire specialists that understand the nuance of what's actually changing the platforms. But I don't feel that they are actually changing as dramatically as other people believe. But I also feel that a lot of this is nuance that is probably incompatible if if you have a $500 budget, it's you do not need to understand the nuance of something that's going to take you from $500 to $5,000 because you'll never have the $5,000 budget, right?
Yeah.
And if you're at the $5,000 budget, you can hopefully qualify and hopefully find a partner who can educate you better on what they're doing and why they're doing things that can help you drive forward. Um, I I'd also say that there are lots of micro changes that is consequential if you are doing, so I try to think as commercially and as user-centric as possible. And I feel that calibrates against all the changes that are happening to a large extent. Because I believe that if you're talking to people and you're trying to serve them the best that you possibly can, even if Google shuts down tomorrow, even if Facebook shuts down tomorrow, you'll still have a route to market from another way. And
Yeah.
they'll still want to do business with you because they'll still be interested in how you do business. And that's kind of my whole philosophy. So I don't care too much about technology changes. I care that I can help and can facilitate whatever the client is struggling with that I can hopefully solve it for them.
Yeah, and that's what I like. And Great answer. That's exactly where I wanted
Thank
you
you.
to go, because, and even there's micro changes we can't stay up with them. We got to
No.
run our own businesses. That's where you come in, or somebody like you, to help us stay on
Exactly.
top of that. So let's have some fun. We talked all kinds of marketing, but we're gonna have some fun to end the show.
Amazing.
So AJ, you have a reservation in a restaurant in Barth, England. That's where you
Right.
live. There's
Yes,
a
sir.
table of 4. You're of course going to occupy one of the chairs, but the other 3 chairs, dead or alive, who you going to invite, and what and why, and what food would you order?
Right. I love this. I picked Warren Buffett because I just love how he thinks. So I would love to just sit down with him for a couple of hours. I think that would be absolutely amazing. I don't have $1.5 million. I think his lunch goes for every year up for $1.5 million, isn't it, for charity? So he's definitely one. My great grandfather, who the whole backstory why I won't get into the whole thing. He was a banker in Germany before the Second World War. He had to leave Germany. I never got to meet him. He's my hero. There's books about him behind me. I'd love to meet him, sit down, because I think we're very, very similar. I'd be fascinated to to talk to him. And then I think the third, so that's one alive, one dead. I think the third person, let's say people that can think of actually, but I think actually, I'd love to have sat down with the Queen. Queen Elizabeth, and here's why. I think she's a remarkable woman, but I also think she probably has a lot of very, very hilarious stories that she can't tell.
I love
That I
that.
think, right?
Yeah.
I think that you probably get out of her over a long meal that would be quite hilarious, quite funny. Um, so yeah, I do think I picked those 3. They're academics, they're wise, they're intelligent, they're successful, and yeah, so that's what I would pick. I'm a massive, 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 massive fan of Italian foods, so it'd be pizza or pasta. Um, which I'm sure Warren Buffett would appreciate.
You turned a curve on me. I didn't expect Italian food. So
There
now
you
I'm
go.
going to
There
go.
you
I need a 5th
go.
chair because I need to join you now.
Yeah, right. Um, and then I think it would be cigars after.
Sounds like a good night.
Sounds like a
Like I
great night.
said, I'm gonna put my
You'll be there.
reservation in there. Yeah, absolutely. So how AJ, how can people find you and support you?
Cool. So they can go to audaciouscommerce.com. That's the website. There's a blog there that's ever expanding, which I'm using to write about the basic philosophy that we practice as a company. And so there's everything from how to set up a marketing campaign, to why strategy matters, to how to do SEO, to how to do paid campaigns, email, etc. I write pretty much every day on LinkedIn. I believe my handle is AJ-Saunders-Ecom. Hopefully that'll be in the show notes. But come and connect with me. I love when people come and talk to me. I'm also highly active on Instagram, which is A_J_Saunders. Again, come and tell me that you listened to me on this podcast. Come and tell me what you liked. Come and tell me what you disliked. Come and ask me for help. I'm all ears.
I love it. Well, thank you, AJ. This was
My pleasure.
Incredible show. I learned a lot about marketing, and we had fun, and that's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
A little laugh never hurts a podcast at all. Everybody, don't forget about my TV show, Together We Serve, every Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. And me and Rick want to thank AJ. Why did I say Rick?
It's all right.
I'm still thinking about our podcast. My marketing mind's going. Me and AJ want to thank you. See, the host could screw up too, and I'm very humble about it.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's all good. But me and AJ, thank you so much for watching and listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
And we look to seeing you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. See you all.